Sunday morning, as the sun is shining brightly on the sugar cane in my yard, I wake up to the sweet fragrance of spicy curry wafting through my hut. Swiftly, I put on my sari and smack a red dot right onto my forehead. Before I leave my room, I don't forget to grab my AP Calculus textbook, perfect for those hours of free time. That is, of course, in between periods of milking the cow. As I head out to visit my arranged husband, I stop at the local gas station on the way there. The local gas station owner, a fellow Indian, of course, comes and greets me. We discuss my lackluster ACT score, a 34, and then we talk about how 7th grade is going for me. As I head out, I get onto my cow and I recklessly steer onto the road, ignoring pretty much any and all traffic signs. And this is what my life is supposed to be like, because if you haven't noticed, I'm brown. The truth is that our world is filled with stereotypes, and whether we realize it or not, we are not immune to these stereotypes, and they have the power to affect all of us. Many Americans to this day face their own stereotypes and harbor beliefs about other racial stereotypes, not only for Indians, but for other ethnicities. The National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago published a study that showed that these stereotypes do in fact exist. Respondents were asked to evaluate a variety of characteristics for a variety of groups, labeled whites, Southern whites, African Americans, Asian Americans, and Latinos. The questions were as follow. Do these people in these groups tend to be unintelligent or intelligent? Do people in these groups tend to be self-supporting, or do they tend to prefer to live off of welfare? The results were outstandingly obvious. Whites were ranked more preferably on every characteristic that was on this test. And African Americans and Latinos were ranked last or second to last on almost every characteristic that was positive. But this survey doesn't stand alone. There are countless other studies that show this very idea. For example, the Journal of Social Psychology shows that positive traits are more attributed to whites than African Americans, and negative traits are more attributed to blacks than to whites. And while this problem may not seem as apparent in places like Upper Saint Clair, none of us are immune to these stereotypes. The jocks in the school are forced to fight their own battles and prove that they're more than just a bunch of meatheads. The nerds have to learn to put down the books and pick up their new sports. And even those in the public eye can't escape their own stereotypes. And who knows better about disappointment in the public eye than Nina Davuluri. Nina Davuluri was Miss America in 2014 and an Indian. But she was forced to face her own hate messages on various media sources. Many of these messages read as such: "Congratulations, Al-Qaeda, our Miss America is one of your own." Or, "I swear I'm not racist, but this is America." For Nina, she was defined by many as a terrorist based off of the color of her skin. She was told that she didn't fit into this mold of what it means to be the definition of American beauty. And the truth is, I know this story all too well. I was recently named Miss Pennsylvania Team America, and the reason I decided to compete for this title was because of my own inadequacies that I felt throughout my life. The moments where I felt that I didn't and couldn't ever fit into this mold of what it meant to be an American. Numerous points in my life, I have been told, "Oh wow, you're really pretty for an Indian." Or, "You know, for an Indian, your house doesn't smell at all." You know, I used to let those moments define me as some sort of outsider, when I learned that the color of your skin doesn't define you as an American citizen. You know, the power that we give to our skin is up to us as a society. We can choose to give into the stereotypes, or we can choose to create our own image. And I know many of us think of African Americans, Asians, or anyone that isn't white when we think of these stereotypes. But this mindset applies to any minority that exists, to any group that feels isolated because of their own differences. But hey, maybe I do live on a farm, and maybe I do eat curry, and just maybe I wear a dot on my forehead. But in no world should I ever be the set standard for all other Indians. Because if we do that, if we choose to give into the racism, if we choose to not give people the respect they deserve to be their own person, we will live in an ignorant world. A world where all blondes will be dumb, all Indians will be smelly, and all women will be terrible at driving. But know that you have two options. You can either give into the general consensus, or you could choose to change the conversation and once and for all get rid of the stereotypes. The choice lies in your hands. Thank you.